Namaste. Let's talk a little bit about your hips. As you know, so many people as they grow older have hip problems. Very serious hip problems. There's degeneration of the cartilage between the acetabulum and the head of the femur. There is misalignment which causes wearing of that cartilage. It wears down. There is also the bone itself that sometimes snaps, and then you have hip replacements and all these complications of old age in the hips. Now, the people who have done yoga properly, or the practice of asana properly with alignment, don't have these problems, right? My mother is 93, she has no hip problems. My father died at about 93, just before 93, no hip problems. My yoga teacher, B.K.S Iyengar, no hip problems. Why? Because we practiced asana in a certain way. So I have developed a series now for more than about 25 years. It has been used around the world, called the Hip Opening Series. I've recently added the Hip Strengthening Series to it. So we get the complete opening, aligning and strengthening of your hip joint. So let's do a couple of things that will help you with your hip joint. Let's start with full body stretch. So join Bella, lie on your back, bring your legs together. Now place your hands on your greater trochanters. The greater trochanter is the widest part of your pelvis. It's the bone of your femur. It's the outer edge of the bone of your femur. So you should feel that bony thing on the outside of your hip joint. Now that bony thing should be as non-bony as possible. How? By pulling your belly upwards and then squeezing your legs together. As soon as you squeeze your legs together from your hips, the bones will move medially. That means towards the center. If you squeeze your legs from your ankles, that will not happen. But if you squeeze them from your hips, they will move in towards the center, provided that you're lifting the bottom of your belly. So you create space in your hip joint, then you squeeze the legs together. Because for most people, the hips are always falling outwards. So hold this for a few breaths and then relax. And then again, squeeze, lift and squeeze, lift and squeeze, lift the belly and squeeze. This is a primary action for helping with the alignment of your femur bones in the pelvis. So do this a few times a day and it will help with your hip joints coming into your pelvis so that when you walk, they're not dropping sideways and thereby wearing out on the lateral border of the acetabulum. And then slowly relax. Okay, have a seat. So over more than 50 years of teaching, I have seen so many different variations of hip problems. There was a gentleman who came to me when I was teaching in Munich in Germany, who came to me with his detached head of the femur. It was in a bottle. He had had it cut and replaced. And when you look at that bone, you saw that it was no longer round. It was oval. It had been worn out on one side. Why? Because he was a professional skier. He also jogged a lot and he did a lot of outdoor sports, high impact sports. He was a very big man. And that constant pushing without alignment and without time to regenerate, without the nutrients required to regenerate the cartilage caused the hip joint to become warped. It had to be cut off and replaced. We do not want that to happen, which is why we do these different things in our practice in Purana Yoga. So today, I want to do two things that will help you with this problem. Not just this problem, but with the alignment of the hips. To properly align the hips have to be moved along three axes: the x-axis, the y-axis, and the z-axis. So today we are going to do the x-axis. Along the x-axis you have two movements. They are extension and flexion. So we'll do these two movements today to help you with the opening of the hip joint across this axis, which is this way on the x-axis. So let's join Bella as she lies on her back. Now once you have lain down, bring both your legs together and then take your right leg up for Supta Pada Angushthasana and hold your big toe with two fingers, the index and the middle, and if you can't, then take a belt around your heel and hold the belt with your right hand. So now this is called flexion. Flexion. The leg is flexed towards the chest. Now, bring your mind into your right hamstrings. Moving your outer right hip away from your head, open your hamstrings by pressing your thigh bone back into the back of your leg. Do not let your right knee be bent at any point. Many people want to catch their toe, so they keep their right knee bent. That's just an ego thing. Use a belt. The knee has to be straight. Otherwise you do not engage reciprocal inhibition and your hamstring does not open. You'll be having your knee bent forever. You have to open up the hamstrings, and the only way to do that is by straightening and contracting the quadriceps. So stay in this for another 10 seconds. Ideally we stay for 2.5 minutes because that develops a neural memory in your hamstrings. Inhale, exhaling, bring your right leg down and then take your left leg up. Once again, move your outer left hip away from your head, outer left hip away from your head, and then straighten your leg by contracting your quadriceps, feeling the left hamstrings opening. My teacher used to say, open the eyes of your hamstrings. He made us visualize the pores of the skin being eyes, and you open the eyes as if you're looking out from behind your leg. In the meantime, keep your right leg strong. That means contract your quadriceps, contract your tibialis, pull your toes back. So this flexion opens the extensors. The hamstring is an extensor. Certain buttocks muscles are extensors. And so that's what we are doing. By flexion, you open the extensors. Then slowly release and bring your leg down. Now slowly roll over onto your belly. And now we'll do the opposite thing. We will open the flexors by extending. So for this, bring your right toes onto the floor, tuck your toes under, then press your right pelvis down into the floor, and then lift your right heel as high as it'll go. So this is extension causing the flexors to open. So the flexors, of course, are the psoas, the iliacus, the sartorius, the rectus femoris, and we're opening those muscles by lifting the leg and contracting the opposite muscles. And then slowly bring your leg down, then point your right toes backwards, tuck your left toes under. Press your left pelvis into the floor, feel it. You even use your hand to push it down if you need to. Yeah. Then keeping that pelvis down so there's no twist in your spine, lift your left heel. As you lift your heel, make sure your inner left thigh is lifting more than your outer left thigh. So there is no rotation. There should be no external rotation in your hip joint. You keep it in neutral position as you engage the extensors. So you're engaging the extensors to open the flexors. And then slowly come down. Of course, you can repeat this several times, but I'm just showing you a simple way to align the body, the hips along the x-axis. Please come up onto your hands and knees. And then sit down. So these are two things you can do regularly. Extension and flexion to open the flexors and the extensors. This will help align your hips in the front-back axis. There are other axes in which we align, but this is a good beginning. Have happy hips. Namaste.